Okay, it's official. We've now started the third consult. So welcome, everybody. Here we are again. And we're going to be talking over, we're going to spend a fair bit of time on this one, talking about reflections. We've had some reflections ourselves over the weekend. We were sort of fortunate. We went away for the weekend, which was a nice little break. We went up to Spices at Hidden Vale, which was great. So that was fun, and we managed to reflect a little bit ourselves on the journey. We're also going to reflect on that satiety conversation that we had, which was really kind of cool. We're going to also talk about come back around on goal setting and perhaps what that means in terms of what we're trying to say around goal setting versus perhaps taking a broader theme or a purpose or even an identity. So I'm going to touch on a few things in that. And then we've also got some collective measure from the Metabolic Vitality group. So how we're all going. Specifically, I'll be showing everybody's weight scores, but I'm going to anonymize everybody. So don't have no fear there. We're going to be no naming and shaming here. But I'm pleased to say that collectively over the group, we've lost over 22 kilograms in the short amount of time we've been going, which is very good if weight's your measure. But remember that weight is not the be-all and end-all on this one. So I haven't quite done the happiness index yet. So we'll have a little pour over that as well, which is an interesting one. And how we do the happiness index is we do a sentiment analysis across the conversations in the community, in the group. So that becomes a bit of an interesting thing to do as well. But I guess in order to get the party started, Dia, do you want to start by going through a few things that you've had come into your world?
Yeah, so a few things this week. So had a couple of questions that have come through from people just around the guidelines of metabolic balance. So those 8 guidelines and being able to actually stick to them or having challenges with them. So still had a couple of questions about the water, that it is a challenge to be able to get that amount of water in. It's funny, every time you talk about water, it actually makes you thirsty and makes you want to drink. But just remembering that starting the day hydrated, so start the day with a really big glass of water. I was actually with somebody last week and they only drink hot water during the day. So when they're working, they will always go, they've actually got one of these nifty little water heater things that you put your cup under it and it just heats that cup of water for you. And they were saying that when they're actually at work, because they enjoy having a hot drink through the day, in the middle of their day, they'll actually just go and have a cup of hot water.
I don't know if that's me. Is anyone else thinking that's not me? I'm thinking that's not me. Do you drink hot water, Jane? You do? Yeah, okay.
No.
Oh, no, you don't. Okay, yeah.
That's not me at all.
Yeah.
I did actually think that I will give that a go. Typically, Tuesdays and Thursdays are my really long days in clinic. And they're the days that sometimes I can have breakfast really early and then lunch becomes a little bit later. And that 5 hour becomes a bit more of a struggle. So I'm going to give the hot water a go and I'll report back.
Right. Well, I'll throw myself in the challenge as well. And I'll do the hot water thing on Tuesday and report back. Yeah. And you're going to get a very real view of that from me.
But I just think it was something that might be worth trying just to see if that makes any difference.
Give it a go. That's tomorrow, right?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Hot water tomorrow.
Hot water tomorrow. Hopefully it's not 40 degrees tomorrow. The other thing is getting through the 5 hours or being able to get to the 5 hours. So if there's two things I look at with that 5 hour gap. And it's, are we struggling to get to the 5 hours because we haven't eaten enough or we're not full enough to get to that 5 hours and we're starting to get hungry earlier? Or is it a boredom or a habitual not being able to get to the 5 hours? So if you find that your energy is running out before that 5 hours and you are actually getting incredibly hungry, and I would go more towards the starving side of things, then look at that meal before and make sure that you ate everything you could in that meal. Check the guidelines around that. Did you start that meal eating protein first? Did you have something in that meal that maybe wasn't on your plan? So look at that meal beforehand. And if you find that this is a habitual thing you're having, so say it's between breakfast and lunch, that you're having the same breakfast and every day you're struggling at around that 3-hour mark, try one of your other breakfasts, even though it might not be your normal go-to breakfast. So just trying something a little bit different. And if that doesn't help, just increase your portion size.
Should we do that in conjunction with you and Sarah, though?
No, just yes and no. If you feel that it is becoming a real challenge, then definitely jump on a call with Sarah or I. We can have a look at that. But sometimes I find just switching that breakfast can sometimes be enough to actually have something different. The body's just more satisfied, and then you actually go back to that breakfast. There's no technical reason as to why that is the case, because you're still having the same amount of food that you would have had in your previous meal. But sometimes I think the body just gets used to it. You might run out of additional energy burning through it. So just try something different. But if you feel you want to increase it, and it's probably more important for people that are being a lot more active. So if you're starting the day and you're exercising, then increasing that food is necessary to cater for the additional exercise that you're doing. So start off with an extra 10 grams, an extra 20 grams. If you feel you're getting an extra 30 or 40 grams and you are still not satisfied at that amount, definitely reach out to Sarah and I, and we can just have a chat and see if there's anything else within that meal that we may need to move around or adjust.
Is anyone?
Yep.
Yep, you go.
Sorry, I just had a quick question regarding that. My lifestyle is pretty full on at the moment with 2 tiny humans. So just around that, I'm fine with my portion sizes. I thoroughly enjoy my breakfast. But sometimes I find that I have to shorten that 5-hour period to either eat with the kids or, rush off for whatever. And so is that okay if it falls a bit shorter? I'm not hungry at all, like as in, if I have lunch at midday and then at 5 p.m. I'm sitting down, or 4:30 I'm sitting down with the kids for dinner. I kind of find, well, I may as well eat as a family and eat with them. I mean, it's a half an hour, it's not terrible, but I'm not hungry through the night. Like I'm fine then for the breakfast. But is it okay if it's sort of within that sort of half an hour kind of?
Yeah, look, definitely. So the most important thing with metabolic balance is that life has to happen. And we certainly don't want you not eating with the family, especially when you've got younger children as well. It's kind of like you guys eat and then mum will eat on her own. We don't want that to happen. It really comes back to your goals and what we're trying to achieve. If we are still getting the results that we want and we've reduced that gap by half an hour, absolutely fine.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it'll be a smaller gap and then a longer gap also. It depends on what day of the week it is, really.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if that gap was 2 hours, 3 hours, then I'd try to lengthen it. But around that 4.5, I'm really not that concerned. So that gap is based on how much energy our body requires to process the foods that we have given it.
Yeah.
And because obviously everybody's body is different, we work that it takes around 4 hours for most people's body to process the proteins that they're eating. So your body will utilize it before you then eat your next meal. Some people will take a bit longer, some people a little bit less, which is really where that 5-hour comes from. We're working out on an average person. So if the 4.5 hours is working every now and again, don't change anything. That's fine.
Should you be looking at the outcomes as well? Like hunger is one thing, right? But is it still I don't
Like
know.
if your goal is to lose weight and you're not losing weight, then maybe something has to change for a limited amount of time. But if you're still achieving what you're achieving and you've reduced it slightly every now and again, then
and your energy's good.
Energy's good.
Yeah.
You're able to get, like I said, you're not hungry before going to bed. It's not as if you're eating at that 5 o'clock, that by 7 o'clock you're starving. Then it should be absolutely fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Very cool.
Anyone got any other questions based around the guidelines at the moment? No? Awesome. Okay, so a few other questions that I've had as well. And again, this comes in not only with vitality, but with lots of things. I think lots of things we do. It is really about the motivation. So this is a journey, and we want metabolic balance to be a journey for life. We want it to be a lifestyle change. But sometimes when you don't always see the results you want, things have happened within your life, it's hard sometimes to keep that motivation going, which is exactly why we created Vitality, was to bring people together that are on the same journey so that we can motivate ourselves. And as most of you know, Scott and I do this 8 weeks ourselves to make sure that we kind of come into check with what we're doing. But I kind of did a bit of a sort of delve, and Scott and I did a bit of a delve into a lot of these sort of motivational things. And really what I came up with, the first thing I came up with, and it's funny because I recently was doing some lecturing and all of the students used to, there was one question I would always ask them, and what is your why? Like if you want to do something, what is the why? And it really comes to that with vitality as well, and metabolic balance. And it goes back to, what is your why? Why are you doing this? What is your motivation? And it's different for everybody. Nobody has the same why. Your why could be that you just want to feel more energy. It might be that you want to get down to a certain dress size. It might be that your why is that you've got an event coming up and you want to be the best version of you. But remembering, and when I sit in clinic and I have people that come in and they've got blockages or things aren't happening, and I say, why did you walk through my door in the first place? And is that still the same today as what you wanted then? So, and writing down that why and reflecting on it is a really good way to actually remember the journey that you're on and the reason for being on that journey.
Yes, and so I've done a fair bit of work on this over time. For those of you who've been on the journey once with us, I'm a prolific journaler. So I reflect on my why often. Every morning I get up and I take myself off into a room the universe can't have at me yet. And I literally sit with my thoughts and I journal. I meditate as well and do a bunch of other things. But that's my moment to sort of sit back and question my why. What's been interesting, so I don't know if you guys have come across a book called Atomic Habits at all. So a guy called James Clear wrote Atomic Habits, a really great book. He has an interesting philosophy, which I'll actually be sending around a small snippet where Tim Ferriss and he are having an interview. And they're talking about this concept of identity. And I find this really profound when it comes to people who smoke, for example. So Karen and I don't smoke. I'm not sure if anyone on this call smokes, no judging, of course. But I always come back to the principle of, why would I never pick up a cigarette? Why, if someone offered me a cigarette in a social occasion, why would it just not even enter my mind that I would not even take that cigarette, to the point where maybe my body language is such that people don't even offer me a cigarette? Yet, why, if I go to, say, in a food or a social situation, why do I reach for the hors d'oeuvre that's bad for me, or why do I, and I know that perhaps, and there's a lot, I could write a doctoral thesis and become a world-renowned speaker if I could get this right with everyone. But what I like about James Clear is he talks about this concept of identity. And I really like how he approaches it, because basically he puts it pretty simply, where he says, ask yourself the question, who is the person that I wish to be or become? And then do an action to reinforce that. That's it. And then do another one, small, really tiny, and then do another one. So an example for us on the weekend when we were talking about satiety, ordered this, if you've ever been to Spices at Hidden Vale, and I recommend you do, plan it well when you go there though, but the homage restaurant there is fabulous. And so we ordered Wagyu. I ordered one night, and it was, my God, and I knew it was 200 grams, right, which is above my weight in protein. So at that point, I chose to go, okay, hang on, I'm going to give myself a little test. My identity is I'm a healthy person, and I want to be the healthiest version of me. That's my goal. And so at that moment, I went, okay, well, I'm going to only eat 2/3 of this, which I know is my weight in protein. Now, this meal was fabulous, and it was expensive as well. But at that point, I chose and got my fork and pushed it away. And I sort of thought about that a little bit, and it was because more often than not, I make my decisions based on who I am and who I want to be and what my identity is. And I link it back to that smoking piece, which is I choose healthy food over non-healthy food. And therefore, I do get to the point where healthy is the only option. So another example, driving down to Melbourne, we drive to visit our daughter every now and again, and going to the road houses, the service stations, you pull in there. Now, I don't know about you guys, but you've got Oliver's in New South Wales, which is an excellent tick on for New South Wales, but every other service centre, McDonald's, KFC, and lollies for days and energy drinks and all that sort of stuff. It's slightly atrocious, but we literally pull in, get petrol, and then drive off, and we'll go to a small town cafe or just go to Woolies and literally grab a salad and a protein and keep going on the run. And why we choose that is because it's funny. I get the same sensation as I would if someone offered me a cigarette when I'm walking into a service station trying to choose food. And so not right, not wrong, but for some reason, my brain has internalized now and processed that is not who I am. And I will refuse to go back, though, 10 years ago. Yep, double down on a Big Mac with a cheeseburger. I might grab some fries on the way out and a Coke Zero, and I'm out of there, sort of thing. Whereas I don't, and my mind has changed. And I do believe that what James Clear has, and reading at least one of his books, and I read it a long time ago, he talks about when it comes to the way that you think, you self-talk, he comes up with quite a clever, slide on self-talk where he talks about outcomes-based decisions or goals and identity-based decisions or goals. And in the outcomes world, he says, he talks through it like this: I want to be skinny, that's my outcome. And if I stick to a diet, that's the process, then I will be skinny. That's my identity. However, he's saying that's in an identity-based world or an approach, that's if you flip it and put identity as your focus, then you will get a better outcome based on your self-talk. So by way of example, I am a skinny/healthy person. I eat well and exercise. That's the process. And the outcome is the weight will take care of itself. So on one hand, I'm pointing this, I've got this narrow, on the outcome basis, I've got this narrow, quite hard to hit goal of I want to be skinny or healthy. And as opposed to I am a healthy person. And so it's a slight flip on words, but it's that self-talk and also that perception that you set up for yourself. But it's actually deeply tying in identity. And I think that if that approach is taken, then a lot of the challenges that you face during metabolic vitality and a question of, do I exercise, do I not exercise, do I this food over this other food, or do I choose to cook this way? If you choose your identity and you really consider your why, which is what Karen was saying earlier, for some reason, things just become easier. And I don't know. And that's just seeing my personal story. I'm not sure if anyone can attest to that. on the call, it would be good to hear if maybe that's piqued something in you guys. But for me, that's, and reflecting on it and also tying it into some sense of, I suppose you'd call it, I wouldn't go as far as calling it academia, but I certainly have had a look at a lot of these books, and that is quite a profound shift, but not by much, but enough to really, it's quite simple to be able to let that settle in to the day to day. So not sure what people think on that, whether you've encountered that yourselves or not. What are you giggling at? Am I in trouble?
No.
Did I do something wrong?
No.
I've always got to check to see if I've done something wrong. So yeah, not sure if anyone's wanting to share perhaps the same type of story where I've always tried to think, why am I not a smoker, and why don't I even get offered cigarettes nor accept cigarettes, versus why can't I do that necessarily in my health?
I think
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful exploration. Thank you for sharing that. Because yes, I have the same, I'm not interested in cigarettes, but why is that? While I am interested in this piece of chocolate, or when I go out for a meal, when people put chips on the table, that I cannot avoid grabbing quite a few chips then suddenly as well, even though I hadn't ordered it for myself.
Yeah, I think important too is, like, it's not when I chastise myself. It's like, man, I've done that again, and it's so wrong, and I shouldn't have done that. But now, actually, I'm in a different. I don't do that anymore. I do it a lot less. And normally, with the identity-based approach, it seems like it's less of a challenge. It's only occasionally that I feel like grabbing for the chips, for example.
I'm not there yet, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because I do feel, in terms of identity, when you talk about it, well, I've always been exercising a lot the last few years, so that's never a problem. And I do feel like if I go a little bit out of what I should do, I immediately put on weight quite easily.
Yep, me too.
All right.
I just have to think about that Big Mac I used to eat, and I think I put weight on. So
yes. So that it's still tricky in terms of my identity. Yes, some things easy for me to not to take. That's not part of my identity, but there's lots of stuff still in my identity, which causes me to put on weight if I don't watch it. So does that mean I have to, go even further and more? But yeah.
So I will.
When is it about balance and a healthier balance, maybe, or when is it really about stopping doing things?
For me, self-reflection is that moment. So I think I said earlier, I journal a lot. That's just me. That's my habit. And that's the moment where I self-reflect. And it's not for everyone. Journaling's not for everyone. Meditation's not for everyone. But I do think everyone needs to sort of park for 5 minutes. Kate, 2 little munchkins, and that it's pretty hard to park, I could imagine. But there's post-bedtime and probably not a pre-wake up time, what time they wake up. But if you don't kind of find that space, then, it's kind of like driving the Ferrari. If you don't pull that into the service station, then it's going to be a useless car on the side of the road.
I do get to, my husband is very supportive, and he has,
awesome.
So one of my neighbors is a yogini, and so she has started last year and this year. She's doing yoga sessions from home. So I literally walk out my front door at 5:30. I walk 2 doors down, and I do a yoga session from 5:45, which means my husband can't start work until, an hour after he is supposed to. He's a builder, but it gives me, that's my time. That's my
super important
zone out sort of time for me. I mean, all the time I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? Upside down, I can't even do this, but I'm at least there and I'm moving my body, which is what the most important thing is. And also, I just wanted to let you know too, I don't know if anybody else is on Spotify, but if you're a Spotify premium member, you actually get Atomic Habits in your membership.
Wow.
As an audiobook, so you can actually listen to it. So if you're a premium member, this is one of my book club ladies told me this the other couple of months ago, and it was a life changer. So Spotify Premium,
Wow.
It's actually included in your premium membership. So yeah, I've literally just downloaded
Well, that's like the audiobook version, the Audible
Yeah,
type.
it's the audiobook version. So instead
Oh,
of paying $14.99 at
On
audio,
Audible.
you
Oh, wow. Great tip. Perfect. Perfect. Penny, I think you were going to say something a little moment ago.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you for the share, like Ingrid did. That is, it's so spot on, because I was exactly thinking this concept of identity in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
And and my business coach raised it, and I think it was from Atomic Habits, but he went also saying, and it's to what you were saying, Ingrid, about, when is it time for balance and when is it time to cut things off? And he was kind of challenging me on, choosing your identity, and use the example of, you decide you're a non-smoker, and you're a non-smoker, and you never pick up a cigarette again. Or you're a non-drinker, and it's like you're never going to pick up a drink again.
Yeah.
So creating, choosing that identity for yourself, and divorcing yourself completely from that
Yeah,
thing that
it's
you don't
certainly
want to do anymore.
the key for James Clear, though, is when you define that identity, just do something really small behaviorally, habitually, to reinforce the identity. And he's saying, if you choose you're a non-smoker, don't necessarily give up the cigarettes. Just choose that today's going to be a non-smoking day. And that's my reinforcing behavior.
Right.
I am a non-smoker. And then say day 2 you smoke. Don't beat yourself up, because for whatever reason your life has led you to this point. And I reflect on Karen. Karen doesn't drink. She's a non-drinker. And so to the point where very few people offer Karen a drink, even if they haven't met her before. So maybe we give up spooky non-smoking, non-drinking vibes. I don't know what it is, but so sorry, Penny, but that was, I just wanted to point that bit out in James's book.
I think that probably is more realistic for me too, because with something like smoking, I can see how you can do it, but like I've got a sweet tooth, and I love sweet things, but I do want to definitely go away from that and be healthier and get rid of that addiction. And it's just see my identity as stop being someone who struggles with that. That's probably what I want to adopt, is instead of having this identity of someone who's always trying to lose 10 kilos.
Yes.
Like have an identity of someone who's choosing, health.
Yeah, and it is the perfect example. He actually talks about in the book, chapter 2. So if you can get it on Spotify for free, you can fast forward to it. But he literally coins the term that if you're coming from an outcomes-based goal setting / behavioral approach, you will say, I want to be skinny. That is the outcome. And if I stick to a diet, that is the process, then I will be skinny. That's the exact words I think he uses, because I quoted it. Whereas in identity-based, he says, I am a skinny person. That's the identity. The process is I eat well and I exercise. And then the outcome is I'll be skinny, the weight will come off, kind of thing. So really subtle, but, you can tell how one over the other is just, I don't know, is just different perspective. So yeah.
We'll keep exploring this, because this topic could, it
could go on for a long time.
And like what I would say, Penny, is I'm a sweet tooth. I don't remember, a very long time ago when we got married, went on honeymoon. One day of our honeymoon, I ate dessert the whole day.
Lunch and dinner.
That was my goal, was just to eat.
It was like the perfect honeymoon.
And back then my body was actually okay. Well, it probably wasn't, but my body didn't notice it. If I did that now, I know the way my body would react. So as much as I am that sweet tooth, for me, it is them recognizing how my body reacts to those foods. And because I choose health, I know that if my body is reacting in a negative way within me, that's not being the best, healthiest version of me. So, and not that I will ever stop loving those sweet things. I will never walk past a bakery, or I will never walk past a dessert bar and not look at them and go, oh my goodness, they're amazing. But then I bring it back to myself of going, it's not going to make me feel great. That's not being the best version of me if I make that choice. And that's enough for me. And look, I think I've said to a lot of people, I sit and I talk about food all day, pretty much every day. So I do think a lot of that sometimes helps me to make the choices that I make, because I have to show up for everybody else. But I also will wake up the next morning if I do something like that and go, you know what, that really wasn't I don't beat myself up about it anymore. I used to beat myself up about it, whereas now I'll get up and go, oh, I really didn't make the right choice yesterday. Today's going to be a great day. And that's how I kind of look at it. It's like, it is what it is. It happened at the time. I made that choice. It was the right choice for me. But today I don't need to make that choice.
I think listening to your body, though, which Karen used to say, listen to my body. I'm sure she said it to you guys. I was like, what are you on about? Like, really? Listen to your body? Sarah says the same thing. I know Sarah's grinning there because and maybe, I don't know, maybe females are more in tune to listening to their body, but I was deaf to my body. And so for me, however, Karen eats too much sugar, she actually gets a cold-like symptoms the next day. It's really bizarre. And that's you listening to your body. And so I suppose I'm getting into the next thing, which is satiety, which is what we did a small video on over the weekend, was this concept of listening to your body. And then once you can start listening to what your body says, probably project what your body's going to say to you when you do have said sweet or, chips or pizza or whatever. So for me, that helps a lot, that learning to listen to your body more. So for me, knowing what's satiety, what does full mean for me? For me, it's feeling, I guess, my diaphragm, I guess the food sitting on the top of my belly rather than, then I'm sort of starting to tap out. Visual cues of watching the size of the portion was also a way I can get input and things like that. But yeah, it sort of led to that conversation that we had over the weekend, which was listening to your body, or the whole package around eating out, and why are some of the drivers are that we might overeat. So I think there was 3 main things that we picked on.
Yeah, I think so. So one was watching how fast you're eating.
Yeah, which is around listening to your body. Yeah.
They say that you should have around 20 chews per mouthful of food.
I can't do that.
The average person, I think, has 2 or 3.
I'm 1.
So what I would say is your next meal, just try it. Try that longer chew and see. Like, everyone else around you will get really frustrated. You'll still be like on mouthful number 2 and most of them will be finished. But really savoring your food, listening to the taste. As you start chewing, your body releases chemicals, saliva, different things to break down those foods. Also sends messages, like the longer you take to chew, the more food's getting into your stomach, and the messages get sent to the brain to say, I'm actually full. And you probably haven't eaten as much. Whereas when you eat really fast, the body hasn't caught up yet. You've already overeaten before your brain actually realizes it's time to stop eating. So just savoring food. Go look at what the French do. I think there was a book around a little while ago, why the French never get fat or something like that. And it was really around the celebration they have around food. And if you look at the types of food they eat great foods, they'll drink their wine, but they don't put on a lot of weight because they really savor every mouthful of their food. So that's a really good cue if you feel the overeating kind of thing and that satiety, especially when you are out having a treat meal or a meal that is not on your plan. Really slow down.
Yeah. I think the other one was the visual cues.
Yep,
so
visual cues.
That came about with the Wagyu. I guess I knew that it was going to be a couple of 100 grams, but the other meals we didn't know the size, but we sort of roughly sized them up based on what we were doing from home, and then made a call on how much we were going to eat, which was an interesting exercise, one that I've not really done before. But then what followed that was this social kind of almost embarrassment of, I'm sure that, I don't know, I was brought up, if you leave stuff on your table, then, you know,
you're going to eat it the next day.
You're going to eat the next day, or, you know, I was a little bit of a smart aleck, and I told my father, because he told me that there were starving children in Africa, I said I'd package it up to him, post it to them. That's okay. I'll do it tomorrow. He didn't take that on very well, but that was my little journey to all of that. But yeah, it sort of felt awkward with the waiter because the food was amazing. And so the waiter would come out and sort of look at you like, oh, you've left some on your plate. What's up with that? And so had to be pretty quick to go, oh, please tell the chef that it was just amazing. Your portion sizes are so big. I'm full, and those sorts of things. But it was almost like this plate shaming that was going on based on not finishing your food. So I guess what we did out of that is we actually quickly turned that into a compliment for the waiter to pass on to the chef. And maybe, I don't know, that made me feel better. I don't know why I had to do that, but it certainly, just helped me get over this kind of stigma of, oh no, I've got to eat that whole thing.
And I think it becomes more of an issue, especially when you're with friends or family and they're cooking for you as well. You go to some people's place and their plates are huge and your plate's small, and you feel that you have to eat it or they'll be offended. And I find that is when you actually stop putting your feelings first, and as humans we do it, we put somebody else's feeling in front of ours, and then we actually go away from our why, essentially. So why are we on this journey? It's for our health, our wellness. And when we then overeat, then a lot of the times the guilt comes in the next day, and I shouldn't have done that and I overate. So it's kind of putting that intention out to start with. So even before you actually go to someone's place, sort of say, we don't always want to say, oh, I'm following this plan or this is what I'm doing. But sometimes even just sort of saying, oh, just checking, would you like me to bring something? Or can I help by bringing something along? And it's okay to leave things on your plate. A lot of the time, it's more your feelings of how they feel, and they probably don't even feel that way. So just being mindful and being true to you and what you want to do in that situation. You don't always have to please everybody else. And that's coming from someone that is a true people pleaser.
Right. Actually, this conversation's just unbelievable how quick the time's gone. Clearly, we're having fun. So we're just going to wrap it up. I said I was going to briefly show how the collective is performing as anonymized. We've just done a small weight score on everyone and anonymized. So basically, here's everyone's weight loss journey. And I'm showing this. This is not a shaming effort, and weight is but only one of the measures here. And some people didn't set out to actually lose any weight. They were perfectly happy and they just wanted to get vitality. So different measures for them. But it's always interesting. And as a collective, it's a little over 23 kilograms of weight loss just in terms of coming together and having a focus on it. So now, weight is just one measure. And I don't think necessarily, I know that weight should not be the goal. So whilst I'm showing this, it's basically a collective where we're showing off weight as one measure. I'll be pulling out another measure in the next talk. But effectively, this is just showing different people and their journeys and how they've gone. So it's of interest because with the app and the technology that we have, we're able to actually see the collective group, which is really, really great. And so we also we use this as well, or Karen uses the collective different measures, the out of 10 scores, the different scores that you put in. It just gives us excellent feedback on what's going on in that world there. So that was just a brief glimpse of what we've got there. So I think.
Has anyone got any
questions? Questions that are topical this week?
Comments, questions? Yep, Ingrid.
I know that's been mentioned before, I think last week, a bit more about the water bottles. I was just looking into it because I saw that JB Hi-Fi, they were on sale, the smart water bottles. And then you have differences between, what's it called again? The way you use them. Is it with the little, I don't know, and the different sizes as well? One is almost 1 liter and the other one is 600 milliliter. And which one do you recommend?
So
there's plastic and metal ones, and
yeah. So I'm very much I'm not good with plastic. I don't like plastic. I will be doing some education as to why I don't like plastic. So everything I buy will usually be stainless steel or ceramic. We both have the 620 ml for 2 reasons. It fits in the car holder.
Yeah, it's easy to carry.
And it's easier to carry. It's not too heavy. I find the bigger ones, for me, just way too bulky. And because it records your water, you just keep filling it up. As long as you've got access to water, it really doesn't matter how big the bottle is. When we first got our bottles, I think we had a mixture of straw. There's a straw lid. There's another lid. Yeah, I think the straw lid and
chug it's called. I don't know what that means. Chug. CHU.
Chug. So so there's one's like a coffee. I think when you buy the plastic or the coffee cups, they've got like just a hole in them. I think that's the chug version. Okay. The one we have is slightly a spout. Is this chug?
I think this is the chug.
Oh, okay. This may be the chug then. It's just got the small spout on it like that. And then there's another one that actually is a straw that comes out as well. So these have been, and we have treated these just like any other bottle. They've been bashed around. They've been, and they're really robust. Yeah. And we've had them for at least, it feels like I've had them a couple of years now.
And you only have to charge them once a week?
Every week or so. They connect with your phone and your watch really, really well. And it just becomes habit to have a quick look at our watch in our case, and it just shows you how much water you've had, and then it just keeps you on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that measurements because
hydrate spa.
I start good and I write things down as how much I've drunk, and then
it's way
I get lost with my
it's very, very easy to do that. Recommend them. We were able to stock them in the practice. Unfortunately, our stockist has gone MAI on us. MIA. So I'll rekindle on, see if I can get some more back into the practice.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Not this time.
If anyone, even before next week, if anyone has any questions, anything that they want to bring up, please send them through. We'll have a look at all
allows
of
us
those.
then to focus on the conversation around that and hopefully get other things. So in terms of James Clear and Atomic Habits, if you missed that, that's the author and the name of the book. Spotify, great tip. Thanks, Kate. And I will be sending through a small snippet of a video in a card tomorrow where James is actually speaking in the video about this identity-based habits and goals. So I thought that was a really good piece, and that will be very, very good. So, and
I've got a few other tips as well, just to sort of help with that motivation and keep going. So we'll turn that into a card as well.
Cool. All righty. So other than that, we're past time. So let's call that a wrap for number 3. And everyone have a great rest of your week. What's today? It's Monday. So this is the Monday one. So we'll have our next session Wednesday week. So we're alternating between Monday and Wednesdays just because of people's work calendars and those sorts of things. So we hope if you can't make it, of course, we'll record it. Apologies for the recording. It was basically, it took a lot longer to get the recording down than I had anticipated, but tomorrow's will be up straight away.
And thank you to Jane. Jane kindly dropped off some avocados to me in the clinic from up in Townsville. So
I'll be enjoying them tomorrow.
Tomorrow's breakfast.
That one will be ready to eat now.
We've got ready to go. Yeah, that's super. Thanks, everyone.
The time of the recordings is always the same time?
Yes.
Yeah. We tried to make them this time. We think it works. When we ran Vitality back in October time, pre-Christmas, this seemed to be the best time. The other thing too is bring your food into this. So, or if you're going to a walk, put your iPods in and go for a walk. You don't have to sit in front of the computer and do your thing. Put us on mute, drive, walk, eat, whatever you've got to do. It's meant to be fitting in with your lifestyle.
Do you mean AirPods?
What did I say? iPod. It'd be quite funny having iPods sticking out of your ear, wouldn't it? AirPods. Super.
Awesome. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.